There was a port of a game that was destined to fail before the project even was started. This was Unturned on console. For the purposes of this video, I am using the term failed more as a way to get attention onto the bigger issue in Unturned, PC and console. I don't believe that I have seen anyone look at the patterns and updates to figure out what is actually going on, and I don't mean something like bad management. I mean, there is a glaring issue that no one talks about because this issue doesn't seem like a problem. There are so many witch hunts going on why Unturned Console is failing, and I believe it is very simple why. So take a ride with me through Unturned Console's history and updates, and I will show you a pattern that points to the issue in development. As a disclaimer, I could always be wrong, so please correct me in the comments down below if I'm going crazy. In July 2020, Unturned Console was announced to come sometime in fall. This was of course a long-awaited request from the console community, and it got a decent amount of attraction. Leading up to the release of Unturned Console, a trailer was put out, and let's just say that no one really liked it.
Hey Pooh, how are you? They took my fucking eyes.
It seemed like every Unturned YouTube was either making fun of it or remaking their own Unturned trailer. Now if we fast forward to the day of the release, the onslaught of criticism would continue. On Thursday, November 12th, 2020, Unturned officially released on both Xbox and PlayStation. This was around the time where I started playing the game, so I actually really enjoyed the game after not being able to play it for a long time. My initial review of the game was pretty solid. However, as I played it more and more, there were many issues with the game's release, with some being expected bugs, while others were completely missing features. There were many glitches at the time, but I'm only going to be talking about the significant ones. The first one that was noticed was that single-player games would not save. This led people to create their own private servers so they could play the game without losing their data. However, that ended up causing the servers to max out and therefore making popular regions like East Coast hit the server limit. On top of that, there were multiple duplication glitches. There were two main glitches at the time, the wardrobe glitch and the ammo glitch. The wardrobe glitch was simply a way to duplicate any item by moving items around in a wardrobe. I encountered this for the first time when I accidentally duplicated a bunch of wood. Once people found out about this bug, any regular PvP server suddenly became a rocket launcher festival. As for the ammo glitch, this one only happens when you repair a gun. When a gun is repaired, there's a full clip in the gun. Since metal scrap is so easy to get, ammo is basically limitless. This one was less destructive of the two well-known duplication glitches, but spoiler alert, only one of the two glitches ever got fixed to this day. And last time I checked, I can't duplicate items in a wardrobe. Real quickly, I want to talk about the missing features in the game. The first thing I noticed was that there was no group system. This means that there was no teams, and in order to make a base, you had to put a door on each side of the base, and make sure your turrets were turned off before your friends were mowed down. Next up, split screen didn't work. This was something only added to the Unturned Console edition and was very broken on release. Finally, and the thing you probably hear me harp about the most, was that there was no admins or anything like that. I was disappointed when I realized that I couldn't kick or ban people from servers, especially when the passwords didn't work at the time. With time though, I grew to make do without admin permissions. But it still makes me sad that I can't make cool creative mode things without someone being able to destroy it. At this point, I noticed many notable glitches that were in the game. But if I explained them all, this video would be way too boring. Therefore, I'm going to sing you a song. And now, Candelore presents a bunch of bugs in the form of a song. There's crosses being off-centered and zombies getting stuck on stuff, no luck to our head anywhere.
Bruh.
Crafting was not even fair, the buttons would start fighting me in Ireban, Germany. Tests would not show up on signs and you'd fall under the map sometimes. Flankers had reach, radios removed the HUD. Headlamp seizures, items will only move by one. Items got stuck, secondaries were so wrong. Game chat broken, quests would break, servers would break, the HUD would break, and items too. These are some major glitches, currency was missing, APCs would make noises very aggressively, and many more glitches that I forgot about while making this list or more found out. Alright, let's continue. The point of the whole bug list was simply to say that the game was very incomplete at first. I don't believe that Unturned being buggy was the reason that it died off, but the takeaway I want you guys to have is that there was many bugs and missing features at the beginning of the game. With all this, I didn't even mention that the game was $25 US. It is kind of sad that you need to pay money for a downgraded version of a free-to-play game. There is this whole theory on why free-to-play games are better than paid games, but I'm going to simplify it down to this. Free-to-play games give no risk to the consumer, and therefore people are willing to try the game. With all the bad stigma around Unturned Console, any new possible players would never buy the game to try it out. Now I actually think that the $25 is justified for one reason only, and that is because of the free servers. From my experience, servers are not that expensive, but for the average console player with no server knowledge, free servers are amazing. People overlook this fact when they are playing the console version of this game. However, there is probably a reason why most games don't do this. It is way more common to see free-to-play games succeed rather than free servers, since it is just a better business model. I actually think I know why they had the game at $25 to start off though. They needed to see an immediate return in order to justify the console version. I don't believe they had enough funding in order to try something more ambitious, but I am getting a little bit ahead of myself. I would like to get through some more of the updates, so I can really hammer home the fact that Console Edition was not well funded and that the team working on it should have been bigger. But again, I don't think the size of the console team was necessarily why it failed. The smaller team was more of a consequence of the real reason why Unturned Console failed. So let's continue to figure out the reason why. On Thursday, November 26, 2020, we got the Thanksgiving bug fix update. This fixed password protected servers and started to fix the server history issue. However, this update also broke multiple maps. Only a few of the maps, when you would go into certain areas, you would lose a lot of frames. This made those maps moderately unplayable, but it ended up not being a huge issue since 2 weeks later another bug fix came out. On Thursday, December 10th, 2020, we got the first major bug fix. During this time, maps were fixed, server options were fixed, single player started saving, and Germany stopped ear raping. Also around this time, we figured out many workarounds with many of the current glitches. With weird workarounds, we could type on signs and move items in stacks. Around the release of the update, I sent a ticket suggesting that they should add groups to the game, and they basically said that their team was thinking about it. The reason I'm mentioning this is because it seems like the developers do listen to their community. At the time, we weren't really sure if the devs listened to us, but as time went on, it seems like more and more of the things that we ask for get put into the game. Even though the game still had many bugs, the bi-weekly bug fixes really helped the game, and Unturned Console's future was looking much better. After a full month without news of an update, a minor bug fix came out. It fixed one server filter, fixed a crosshair, and items could now be moved in stacks. This was termed as the Forgettable update since it didn't fix anything major. This is when people started to doubt Fun Labs and 505 games again. After a full 3 months later, Unturned Console had its best update yet. The missing group feature was finally added into the game. Playing with friends just got much better. On top of that, they also added the daily reward and currency system that was missing. You get 3 daily rewards and basically get enough coins every day for a free mythical. I just want to mention that I don't like the way that they do this. I think that they should have gone with an approach closer to the PC version, so they could have gotten some monetization from it. Nonetheless, the update brought many players back into the game, and we were back on the wild roller coaster of Unturned Console. Before I move on though, I want to mention that the most noticeable bug was the under the map glitch using the car lifts. At the time, the community for some reason, including myself, were making a giant hoopla about this bug. I mention this because after another 3 months, the car lift under the map glitch was fixed. At this point, it is pretty obvious that the dev team does listen to the community. Even if it takes 3 months to do something minor, the devs seem to be listening and bringing us new content that we want, eventually. This update came with other minor bug fixes and, to my knowledge, didn't break anything. I mean, except Anthony, there's a Humvee doing backflips over here. But at this point, there was speculation going on that the dev team was working on something big in the background that we didn't know about. Some people thought it was admins, others thought it was going to be a format change, but an absurd number of people for some reason thought it was going to be a new map. Due to this, I started working on my next video surrounding the rumors, but I was too late to the party because... And you know how I said a while ago, I'm like, hey, unless if they have a big section of their team working on something big like a new map. On Friday, August 6, 2021, we were hit with an Xbox announcement that Elver would be making its way to Unturned Console. The article said that it would release sometime in September. Also, a tad before the article was posted, the official Unturned Console Twitter was created, which advertised the last update we had. This is officially when Unturned Console devs started to interact more physically with their community. Like I said earlier, the devs seem to be slowly interacting more and more with the community, and I think that's amazing. I think the devs listen to the community, and therefore, poor communication between the devs and players are not the reason that Unturned Console is failing. But you know what else I thought was amazing? The fact that you would have to pay to be able to host the Elver map. I'm not kidding. I suggested that they could sell most cosmetics or DLCs for money while making the game free, and that would help with the game's player count. So I thought Elver being a DLC would be a great way to fund the game if the cost was ever reduced. Not only that, but you didn't need to buy the map to play it. You just needed to buy it to host it. I really hope they stick to the DLC idea in the future, because this would help the game make more money. On Monday, September 20th, 2021, Elver is delayed. But not long after that, a video surfaced of Nelson during an interview where he said that the new map would be released in October. This unfortunately was retconned by the fact that the map was delayed a second time later that month. After 1 year on console, how is the game holding up? Not great. For a better recap of the game's current state at the time, I recommend watching the sad state of Unturned Console, but as a minor review, PvP is in ruins from duplication, PvE is in ruins from griefers, and the player count is minimal from lack of features compared to the PC version. The only people who really enjoy the game are the Anarchy PvP players. I want you guys to notice why people are leaving. From what I can tell, people are leaving due to bugs still being in the game, and missing features from the game. So I ask you this question: why are there missing features? And why are there game-breaking bugs that are still in the game after 1 whole year? I can tell you the devs know about the ammo duplication glitch. I personally sent one of them an unlisted YouTube link, and it has been watched multiple times. So are the devs neglecting us? That seems unlikely since they added groups after we requested it. They also fixed bugs like the car lift under the map glitch after we requested it. So what is it? Could it be that the devs are just bad at their job? It could be, but I think it's something a little bit deeper. Let's continue. Oh boy, can't wait to talk about this one. 1 week later, we got the Elver update, and it sure did break the game. Playing multiplayer was basically impossible unless you wanted to run your game at 5 frames per second. After the map got delayed twice for quality issues, the map was made free to play, but like I just said, it was a nightmare to play.
This ceiling fan is getting more frames than me!
There were so many issues that I remembered basically giving up on the game for a while. It didn't fix any major bugs, at least from what I can remember, and only broke stuff even more. After this update, Unturned Console became a wasteland with barely any players playing on it. The Xbox edition of the game did get a bug fix much quicker, but PlayStation players were left in the dust with a laggy game. On Monday, January 17th, 2022, 2 months later, there was an update for Unturned PlayStation that fixed the lag issue. Now PlayStation players can play the game again! After hours of testing, especially on the map Elver, the frame rates seem to be back to normal. Now everyone can play the game! But not without issues. First off, servers have been very buggy. Particularly, East Coast makes it impossible to create a server or pull a server up. This probably is due to the fact that there's no server slots available, so you physically can't open a server until there's an available slot left. All the other regions seem to also have issues, so if you're having trouble, make sure to go tell 505 in their Discord. However, I'm pretty sure they already know. On top of the servers, zombies don't respawn after being killed, scopes now make you short-sighted, and the ammo duplication glitch is now 14 months old. There are also many old glitches like signs being broken that are still in the game but aren't nearly as noticeable as some of the glitches I just mentioned. Now we are in the current day, and you know what? With everything that I've just gone over, I've realized something about Unturned Console. We are not suffering because of a lack of communication with the developers. Looking at the timeline that I just gone over, it is hard to prove that the devs don't listen to us, since many of the core issues that we seem to talk about, they seem to fix. Instead, it looks like they suffer from not being able to get content out. I'm not talking about laziness either. I'm talking about the fact that the dev team at FunLabs have a massive hurdle to jump. I don't know how many of you know, but the code for Unturned PC Edition is very messy. On top of that, FunLabs has to stay in line with any decision that Nelson makes on the PC edition of the game. If I had to guess, Unturned Console Edition doesn't have a stable roadmap on where the game is going. Their updates seem to be reactionary to the community's response, and therefore they have to make every update from scratch. If they have to constantly make changes to the game and constantly keep up with Nelson and the community, that means that any new content is pushed to the side to make way for these updates. The one time they did manage to add new content, it ended up breaking the game. I just think that the devs have way too much to do and not enough people, or maybe not enough experience to do it. Keep in mind that I have not been flaming the developers for doing a bad job because I actually believe they're doing a pretty fine job. I just believe that updates are slow and standards are high. Therefore, the best way to combat that is what I call the Microsoft approach. Recently, Microsoft bought Activision Blizzard, and I learned their approach to games. If there is a problem in a game that they can't fix, and your developers are having issues, you hire more people unless the project isn't worth it. I can say with 100% certainty that Unturned Console is worth it. So that means they should hire more people, right? Well, that would be up to Smartly Gesture Games, FunLabs, and 505 Games. Here's the only part of the video where I'm going to be criticizing Nelson. I know that Nelson has heard criticism from north, east, west, and to the moon, so I'm sure he's tone deaf to it, but I would like to say my one opinion about this game. I remember that you were skeptical about letting others work on your game back in some interview I heard a long time ago. However, I truly think it is possible to make Unturned, especially Unturned 2, a staple in the gaming industry with some help. You are known as a solo dev behind a successful game that has achieved impossible numbers by just one person. However, it took you quite a while, and I'm sure that the PC code of Unturned is really messy and you may need help cleaning it up. Or at least you may need help cleaning it up in a timely manner. So how does this connect to Unturned Console? The devs at Unturned Console are probably working off of Nelson's code. Since Nelson's code ranges from amateur to master's level of coding, so will the console edition. There's probably a reason there are so many weird decisions in the Unturned Console. I think the reason for that is because they had to change stuff from PC Unturned in order to fit it into the old generation consoles like a PS4 or an Xbox One. I know that Unity can be a weird game engine, so it may take too much processing power to run Unturned on a console. Therefore, they have to change the code. But with that, they have to keep the game the same, but then that breaks the game. And now we have unlocked an infinite cycle of something always being broken or lagging the game. If we look at the update history, we constantly see stuff breaking after lag gets fixed. But then once we fix the stuff, the game lags again. So to finally answer the question on why Unturned failed on console, it is because Unturned on PC cannot physically run on a console without major changes to the code. I bet in the middle of Unturned Console development, they realized that they cannot just copy and paste the code from PC to console. They actually probably realized this earlier. However, it looks like they ignored the limitation of a console and copy and pasted some of the code anyways. I'm going to use a clip from Toothy D-Rate's video that made me realize this.
Jet skis. Apparently they are messed up on PC version 2. Map object issues. Still a thing, but came to realize these issues are on PC. I thought this was an issue on console, but it's the same on PC.
When he was revisiting Unturned Console 1 year later, he noticed multiple bugs that were both in PC and console. Do you know one of the laggiest maps in Unturned? Elver. Which map broke console? Elver. I think this is simply because they tried the same solution for PC, but on console, since it has more limitations, it just didn't work. But why are they taking these shortcuts? Why would a company just copy and paste stuff, or why would they have so many issues trying to port something to a console? Well, in my opinion, it's because the code was so complicated, and they didn't have enough people and or enough skill to recreate Unturned PC from scratch with the strict limitations of a console while keeping up with the Unturned PC updates and any other stress-related variables. That is a mouthful, but I feel like shortening it would leave out some of the important details. If anyone asks you why Unturned Console failed, you can say the devs suck, but I'm going to say that they had a huge barricade in the way, and they unfortunately couldn't get over it quick enough. As a summary of my final analysis of Unturned Console, I believe the game flopped since consoles cannot handle Unturned without major differences in code. You could say that there were management issues and whatnot, but I believe that the management and all those people had way too big of a hurdle to jump to make the port successful. The only way they could have completed this hurdle is by hiring more people, or by being absolute giga chads at coding. Assuming that the devs are normal people, they were bound to struggle with this task. Therefore, Unturned Console's team should have had more people to offset the difficulty of the coding. In order to pay for those people, they should have added more monetization options, which I didn't mention much in this video, but as a quick list, some of my suggestions were selling DLC maps, selling cosmetics, making currency buyable alongside getting free daily rewards, and making servers paid for. The reason I don't think that they had a bigger team was because of how big of a risk it would have been. I mentioned Microsoft earlier, and they can afford hiring more people because if it fails, they'll be just fine. Nelson can't fail, or it will hurt him financially. This is why I've not criticized Nelson that much, because at the end of the day, he shouldn't risk his livelihood on making a bigger business if he doesn't want to. I believe Nelson, Funlabs, and 505 could have definitely done it, but the approach they took was just a safe option. I don't blame them for not taking these extreme risks, because at the end of the day, they did manage to bring an amazing game, although buggy, to more players who couldn't play the game beforehand. I don't expect this video to be perfect. This video has been one of the hardest videos I have ever made, and it has taken me over 2 weeks to make. So please leave your criticisms down below. Thank you for watching, consider subscribing, and I will see you guys later.